Hey, ItsKnogo here. I was doing my third playthrough when making this video, and this quote kinda stood out to me.
Or this floating could be the afterlife.
And I figured I'd do it now, but spoiler warning ahead. Here's a fully hypothetical what-if question. What if the beginner's guide had nothing to do with the relationship between Davey and Coda? Maybe the beginner's guide is not about what I think it is. Hold on, I think I need to give you some context first. The Beginner's Guide is a game made by Davey Wreden, the guy who made the Stanley Parable. The concept of the game is also fairly straightforward. You walk through a series of game creations, along with a narrator who tries to decipher the meanings behind each level.
And it kind of makes you wonder, what was going through his head as he was building this?
The narrator in the game is Davey Wreden himself, and the game creator is called Coda. So within the levels of the Beginner's Guide, there's a set of 3 dots which Coda scatters throughout the game, which perhaps symbolizes Coda himself, like how an artist marks their own work with the signature. What if, instead, we took these as an indication of where to section a set of levels? If you're asking at this point what any of this has to do with the afterlife, you'd be in the majority. This game has been analyzed to bits in terms of the narration and story. My point here is, what if we took all of that away? What if we make the levels and the gameplay the primary focus? So I did just that and came up with the question. What if every set of levels is actually a passage to the afterlife? This is the afterlife in the Beginner's Guide. Hey, you made it. This is how the beginning of the game looks like. We get ourselves a bit of dialogue, and from the light, plunge ourselves into this level. Sand, cloth roofs, storage containers, wood boxes. Albeit surreal, nothing unusual and very lifelike. Next level, escape from Whisper. Take quick note of the entry to the level, from white to the space station.
Whisper machine active. Shift to structure.
You run through, alarms ringing. I'll spare you from that. A set of 3 dots, Coda's symbol. You reach the labyrinth. The narrator takes you past the labyrinth. You are then asked to step into the beam and die, saving the people of the ship. Once you do, because of a game bug, instead of simply plopping dead, you float up, like a ghost. Here's the quote from the intro of the video.
Or this floating could be the afterlife, a peaceful place, juxtaposed against all of the hysteria that you've just had to traverse.
Great, let's dive a little deeper, step by step. First, we've got 3 distinct sections, light, dark, and the in-between. For the sake of a theme, let's call them Heaven, Hell, and the Mortal Realm. Next, let's address the labyrinth. In English, we typically say that mazes and labyrinths are synonymous. In terms of a solution, a maze can have many correct paths and directions to get to the goal. A labyrinth has only one correct path, a sole path to the center. So suppose you're trying to reach the end of the labyrinth. After you fully explore a branch, you can mark it to remember that that branch doesn't need to be revisited. That might be what the symbol before the labyrinth means. We then of course have the laser and the floating, which I took quite literally to represent death. Let's take one more look at the order of the sections. We go from the bright light to a level which resembles life and one that's dark. Let's call this section overall a descent. But for who? Wait, the Coda. Okay, so I think the descent is actually... Hey, ItsKnogo here. I was doing my third playthrough. Figured I'd do it now, but spoiler warning ahead. Maybe the beginner's guide is not about what I think it is. Hey, you made it. This is the second level of the beginner's guide. There's a gimmick to this level. You can only walk backwards, and you navigate the entire level this way. You make your way through a couple rooms. There's a set of 3 Coda dots tucked away. And you end the level with this staircase and door, which changes into a wall once you get to it. The first thought I had of this level was that it's very much like the Greek mythology of Orpheus and Eurydice. Let me try my best to retell the story as they did in the past. You see, Orpheus was a poet and a musician with the power to move people. With lyre in hand, he traveled into the underworld to retrieve his deceased wife Eurydice. He was able to convince the rulers of the underworld, Hades and Persephone, to allow him to return back with his wife. But Hades, king of the underworld, is not so kind. Hades couldn't simply let him walk back, so Hades comes up with a trial. Eurydice would have to walk behind Orpheus, and Orpheus could not turn back to look at her until they made it out. Easy enough, right? But try to place yourself in Orpheus's shoes. Making the trek through the underworld wasn't easy. The only thing he would want to do is look back at Eurydice after being united. And the gods don't play fair. He could make the entire trek only to find out that they tricked him and she wasn't following him at all. So once he reached the entrance of the underworld, he could not resist the doubt and temptation any longer and turned around. Tragic. So instead of not being able to turn backwards, you literally cannot walk forwards. And the ending, the door was the exit from the underworld. Oh yeah, the coda symbol at the base of the stairs. Where was I? The dialogue refers to us as her. Who are they referring to? Hey, I'm sorry if what I say doesn't make sense. I don't have time to explain. The labyrinth was constructed to contain the Minotaur. Theseus kills the creature and is able to escape following a thread that Ariadne was holding onto at the entrance of the labyrinth. But he leaves her on the island of Naxos, and his father, the king, thinking that Theseus has died, commits suicide. What I'm trying to tell you is, this is all just an elaborate plan he made to become the next king.
Hi there. Thank you very much for playing the Beginner's Guide. My name is Davey Wreden. Mostly it's just coda learning the basics of building a 3D environment. The game has this narrative about the whisper machine and how it has to be turned off. There's a bigger picture that all of his games are meant to play a role in, some larger meaning that we won't be able to grasp until we've seen all of them. And once we have, we can step back and start to understand what exactly that bigger picture is.
Welcome to level 3, 4, 5, and 6. You are now entering the darkness. Or so we thought? A set of skyscrapers, and a climb up the stairs which gets slower and slower, and then you hear a door closing as you get near the top. Let me go ahead and bring you back up to speed. At the top is a nice, peaceful place, full of small game ideas by Coda. The next level is the first instance of this door puzzle. Not very difficult, but watch closely, because we're going to see it a lot. You might recognize it from the intro of the video. A coda symbol as we get to the other side. Here, let me show you something cool. Bam! To think that a whole nother world was right behind these walls. And then, we exit. Here's a few interpretations. Entering and exiting the darkness should be nothing new by now. What about the skyscraper level? Here's an interesting story. Charon, let me try to say it in Greek, Charon, or if you're American like me, Charon. Charon is the ferryman who guides souls across the river Styx or Acheron. Styx if you're Roman, Acheron if you're Greek. We'll say Acheron for now. And here's a picture of a paper boat. So cute. And no, I don't know where to find free video footage of a scary boatman, much less a boat ride through the river Acheron. And I'm pretty sure most people don't even know about the river Acheron in the first place. It's always River Styx this, River Styx that. Sorry. Got a little carried away. At funerals, people would place a coin, or specifically called an obol, over an eye or under a tongue, so that the deceased could pay tribute to Charon to take them across the river. If you didn't have a coin, you'd be forced to wait at the shores of the river for at least 100 years before you were allowed across. Yes, I know that's a video of a modern boat. Lovely shores too, ain't it? But if I didn't speed you up the stairs, you'd still be on the shores, enjoying a margarita or whatever people do on beaches. Look, there's a few more treasures still hidden around the level. If you go to the edges of the map, you can hear 2 weird sound bites. Let's say this one represents the idea of lust, if we're going off of ideas of Greek mythology and the underworld. Almost an angelic sound? Maybe souls? Next is the door puzzle. This door puzzle will occur many times during our journey. Commit it to memory if you can. The interesting thing about this door puzzle is that the dark space between the doors has a teensy bit of fog, which makes sense to me that this is the River of Souls, the River Acheron. One last thing, we've got a coda in this level. I don't know if you've seen the marking DC au coda before. The DC stands for da capo, which is Italian for from the beginning. This is something that composers like to use in sheet music to save space. I think the phrase itself is kind of funny. In Italian, coda is a feminine word, so the proper term should have been DC alla coda. Well, I'll let you go now. Back to the beginning, right? Hey, ItsKnogo here. What if the beginner's guide had nothing to do with the relationship between and Level 7, The Great and Lovely Descent. Sounds exciting. What's this? A lovely cafe, the Streetwise Fool. And this is a familiar scene, isn't it? In the prison, in which we're forced to wait an hour. I guess we have some time together. I'll go ahead and do the thing. Let's examine our journey before. White, dark, and the in-between. We see that a lot. I've been thinking, how about we call the in-between something else? I'm kind of getting tired of it, to tell you the truth. Let's call it Purgatory. The place you spend repenting for past sins. The place to be judged for your actions. If Purgatory's okay, I guess it's time for you to learn about Dante's Divine Comedy. It's a poem written by an Italian guy, Dante Alighieri, and I hope I didn't spell that wrong. Hey, stop it. I can feel you rolling your eyes from here. It's not just any other poem, it's a narrative poem. Dante writes this poem as a story. He's allowed special circumstances to journey through hell, purgatory, and heaven, and then makes that work as a record of his journey. He splits each part as a different work that, when together, make up the Divine Comedy. So let's call them as he does: Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso. I kind of felt guilty for saying heaven and hell all the time, so I'm really happy that we can talk about it now. Dante has a guide, Virgil, that helps him through the Inferno and Purgatorio. And the Inferno is not just any underworld. No, you see, even though Dante was Italian, the Divine Comedy was just full of ideas from Greek mythology, like the Minotaur. Charon? Charon? Sharon? The gate still isn't open, so poem. Yes, poem. He writes the entire thing with the terza rima rhyme scheme. Try saying that 10 times fast. That means that the end of lines rhyme with the order ABA, BCB, and so on. Kinda cool, right? With 33 cantos in each canticle, or 33 divisions within 3 larger works, Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso, he couldn't quite get enough of the number 3. Hey, I think it's open. Are you kidding me? Who the hell puts a cell where you wait a damn hour and puts another gate right in front of it? You know what? I'll take things into my own hands. We can move on. A coda symbol. A door puzzle, number 2. 3 people? Huh? Didn't I just... And a lamppost. Okay, wait. I think the order got screwed up now. The white space in the cafe was reality. We dove down like Dante did in the Inferno, and spent some time in Purgatorio, and ended up in Paradiso. And the three people, if we're thinking Greek mythology, it could be the three Furies, or maybe the judges of the underworld, or maybe even Cerberus? Dante also has a group of three centaurs that guard the river Phlegethon, which is another river of the underworld. That's probably a fine guess. And the coda, which probably means that this isn't the right way either. Hi there! Thank you very much for playing the Beginner's Guide. A reminder that this video game was constructed by a real person, and because there's this dark area between the doors, a space between spaces, before you move on, you get to pause. Just for a moment. A few seconds to reflect on and let go of the events that led you here. To step back and connect the pieces together. To grasp at that elusive bigger picture. And here's the 8th chapter, Notes. And I quote, "A game where you leave notes and suddenly everyone's a poet." Yes, Dante, calm down. Anywho, you go through, notes for miles. A pretty painting. Door puzzle number 3. And the level ends in a field of typewriters and a lamppost. Now, with there being so many notes here, there's probably a lot I'll pick up and a lot I'll miss. First note I noticed was, do you feel like a hero yet? Perhaps a nod to the Greek heroes. Maybe we can be a bit more specific. Let's say that this space, while it doesn't appear immediately like it, is a labyrinth. Then the Greek mythology that comes to mind is the labyrinth of the Minotaur. To keep the story short, King Minos was supposed to send a bull as tribute to the god Poseidon. Minos kept the bull to himself and sent a substitute. Poseidon punished him by making his wife fall in love with the bull. They had a child and thus created the half-bull, half-human creature. King Minos then had master craftsman Daedalus and Icarus build a labyrinth to lock the Minotaur away. Then perhaps the hero they were referring to could be Theseus, the Athenian hero who slays the Minotaur. Now, a couple notes feel more relevant. He was, himself, the most horrible creature he could imagine. The Minotaur, of course. Cool cavern, bro. Could be a reference to the labyrinth. Escape, escape, need an escape. From the labyrinth, right? Devil Tower Star. Now this is an unusual one. I guess tarot cards? That would be numbers 15, 16, and 17. And one more. Stop. Turn back. Proceeding further will only result in misery. I think Orpheus would have something to say about turning backwards. And then there's door puzzle number 3, so another river of the underworld. This is the river Styx, for the 5th circle of hell, where the wrathful fought in anger. Hey, ItsKnogo here. I'm grouping levels 9 and 10 together. Unlike some of the other levels, they feel like games about other people. Level 9, Porn Stars Die Too, strikes me as strange. Supposedly they're prison levels, despite not appearing as prisons aside from the bars. You go through a series of variations of the same levels. At the end, you end up in a version where you've escaped and contact somebody who is still trying to escape. Level 10 is by far my favorite level. You go into a house and do some chores, and that's about it. It always amazes me how little you actually need to make a compelling level. The level ends by approaching a lamppost. Okay, simple enough. Prison, Inferno, house cleaning, Purgatorio, lamppost, Paradiso. There's a labyrinth in the level, which you've already heard me ramble enough about. I like the house cleaning level a lot. The house cleaner in the level says that one's house is a lot like one's soul. Why specifically soul, I wonder? One more fun piece of trivia is that there's supposed to be a set of 3 dots in the house level too, at least in the map, but it never appears. There's some theories that the is unreliable. Maybe the game is not to be trusted either. I'm probably looking too far into it. And sorry, I don't think I have anything more to say. "11, 12, and 13 strike me as a confusing set of levels. At first, I wasn't sure where to place them. I tried this analysis using only Greek mythology, but it wasn't until I included Dante's Inferno that this section finally made sense. And of course, let me start from the top. You start with a student and lecturer, which at some point switches places, uncovering the portal. You then enter the theater. You do a bit of acting, which doesn't turn out very well, and you end the section where you have to walk away from a lamppost, while gates continuously fall from the sky as you get further and further away. The next level asks you to play with your eyes closed, so go ahead and close your eyes, and I'll tell you when to open them. You're on a space station. Alarms are ringing and a giant door is coming to crash into the ship. This will happen over and over as a loop until you take action. So go ahead and open your eyes. See the giant door? The only way to stop it is to speak to this guy up here. Something about being creatively spent? I don't know. So what about Dante's Inferno was so important that nothing made sense without it? Let me summarize Canto 9 in the Inferno. Dante is waiting to enter the city of Dis, a city which encloses the lowest levels of hell. Before him and his guide can enter, fallen angels rush forth and slam the gates of the city shut. They have been promised help to enter the city, but their assistance from heaven seems to be delayed. Neither him nor his guide can see very well, as a heavy mist covers over the area. As they wait, the pair suddenly find themselves under the wrath of 3 deities of vengeance, the 3 Furies, who threaten to summon the Medusa, a monster that if anyone looks at will be turned to stone. To put simply, the student and lecturer are Dante and his guide Virgil. The walk from the lamppost is the fallen angels closing the gates to the city, and closing your eyes is either the fog or the Medusa. The canto ends as the ferryman arrives at the scene, directing the fog away and driving away the deities and fallen angels which blocked entry to the city. See, without the ferryman, without the aid of heaven, Dante and Virgil could not have made the descent. The same way, without knowledge that we are allowed to break the rules of the level, without opening our eyes, we couldn't have advanced any further. So if the narrator intervening is an act of heaven, then think back to the start of the journey, when he first introduced himself from the white light. Was he supposed to be an angel? Was I not supposed to intervene? I'd like to ask you again. What if every set of levels is actually a passage to the afterlife? Dante's afterlife. The islands, a white fog, a mist, covers over the level. A mysterious voice comes to our aid, uncovering more and more of the level as we go onwards. The islands, a white fog, a mist, covers over the level. A mysterious voice comes to our aid, uncovering more and more of the level as we go onwards. Oh hey, a torii gate. Comprised of the kanji, tori, bird, and reside, pronounced I or kyo. This structure is a traditional Japanese gate, which is usually the transition between the realm of the mortal to the spiritual. This is a red one, which, if you know anything about Japanese Shinto, Red is a very traditional color, meant to ward off evil spirits. You aren't supposed to walk through the center of these, as the center is usually reserved for the Japanese deities to pass through. Here, let me show you how to enter. Bow once, and enter a little off to the side. Huh? Why is... meant to ward off evil spirits. Come on, I'm not evil or anything. That'd be ridiculous. The islands, a white fog, a mist, covers over the level. A mysterious voice comes to our aid, uncovering more and more of the level as we go onward. Then, a short walk on a bridge to a door puzzle. Since there's a door puzzle here, 4 out of the 5 rivers of the underworld have been accounted for. I believe this one to be the River Lethe, which has a special property where, if you drink the water, you'd forget everything. Since there's another figure leading us this time, maybe the narrator isn't our angel, our heavenly intervention, allowing us to make passage through the underworld. Maybe he's simply human like us, just our guide, our Virgil. I have a confession to make. During our time together, I've not exactly been honest. I haven't been giving you the full story. Maybe you won't even see the game the same way. And what? Telling the story like it's my own? As if I know what the beginner's guide is about at all. Look, you can still turn back. You can go and play the game and act like you never watched any of this. You still have time. You can go back and hear his voice instead.
Hi there. Thank you very much for playing the beginner's guide. My name is Davey Wreden.
Hey, ItsKnogo here. Spoiler warning ahead. Maybe the beginner's guide is not about what I think it is. Fraud, huh? This is for me, isn't it? We've reached the ending. Levels 15, 16, and 17. Devil, Tower, Star. 15. We come face to face with the machine that calls itself Coda. There's a door sequence here, but no actual puzzle, and rather a free fall from light to dark through a door. We are tasked to question and ultimately kill the machine. I'm sorry. "16. The Tower, where we learn the truth of the story. From the bottom, you have to travel through an invisible maze,
I'll put a bridge over the maze.
but Davey creates a bridge for you. The next barrier is a combination lock.
The only way past this challenge is to randomly guess the 6-digit code.
Davey once again. 15, 16, 17. That can't be a coincidence, right? The final barrier. You arrive at a door which can only be opened from the other side. Without Davey's intervention, this level is actually impossible. There's a sinking feeling of unease, helplessness. Looking up reveals a ray of light which you can never reach. Once you reach the top, we come to a set of messages from Coda to Davey. And Davey's been stealing Coda's games. Funny that I've kind of made the games my own too, haven't I? You come to the last door puzzle. And get crushed to death. 17. Our epilogue. We start at a train station. Then a house. Make our way through a dark cavern of sorts, and pass through 3 pillars of light. In this last winding path, Davey leaves you. One last time together, step by step. Devil, Tower, Star. 15. Devil. I'd like to clarify. The Coda machine is not the devil, it's us. For killing Coda. For stealing all that Coda had. 16. Tower. An unsolvable door puzzle, huh? This has to be the last river of the underworld, Cocytus. In the Divine Comedy, found at the 9th and lowest circle of hell. The river is frozen over, is hence not solvable, and is described by Dante to be the home of traitors and those who committed acts of fraud. This just so happens to be after the final scene in which we get revealed that Davey's been stealing Coda's games and putting his own messages into them. 17. Star. Here's some trivia for you. Do you know what they call the Minotaur? Asterius. Star. You know what I think? Maybe this whole game was a labyrinth, constructed to contain us, to trap the wretched like me down here. And what is even up with the 3 pillars, the 3 gates? Why 3? Wait, this is Coda number 9. There are 9 circles of hell, 5 door puzzles, 5 rivers of the underworld, Dante's magic number of 3s. What in the world is Davey trying to tell me? Oh no. You see, Virgil never made it into Paradiso. He's not allowed into paradise as a pagan soul. So all the things I said before about the narrator, is Davey Virgil? I don't know what to make of all of this. He was just doing his best to lead you out of the inferno. Is this, then, the beginner's guide through the afterlife?
What now? I think I need to go.
I've probably ruined the game for you by this point, but since you've stuck with me, I think you deserve to see how this all ends. And no, I'm not coming along. Look, I think I just need some time to think through what I've done, so I'm
Just gonna